Congratulations if you've made it to the stage. Now, these are the operations we're going to be carrying out. A read operation to read all the users that we have in the collections, then in the collection, then to read a particular user, that's what we normally call a profile, then to be able to edit a particular user, then to delete a particular user from the database. So these are different operations that we want to carry out. They are called CRUD operations. CRUD stands for create, read, update, and delete. We have already carried out the create, so it's time for us to carry out the read, operation. So let's call this module and export immediately .exports. And this is going to be all users. So that's what I choose to call this, all users. So it's a controller called all users. Now it's going to be taking two parameter response, request, and response. Okay. So request and respond, comma. And yeah, what do we want from the response? We want to be able to fetch out all the data from the database. So that's what we want to fetch out. So let's just store this in a variable and say let's users equal to. Now we're going to talk to the user model now. So it's going to say user model dot. Now to get a part all is just to find. To find, that's the keyword. Then we can then put dot execute method. And we can tag it with the dot then method. And I think what should we be expecting? We should just console.log out all the users that res.send. So whatever result that it is, so it's going to take the user data, right? And we can console.log out the user data in here. So res.find. Now, when we put res.find, we put this bracket, it means find all. So that's what it means. We put this object, it means find all. So what we're actually doing is that we're saying that the user MOdel.find will execute, then it's going to give us a response. And we'll just send that response to the front end to show that we'll find all the users. That's all it takes for us to be able to read, all the users quickly. So we're just going to create that route, and so the controller is called user. We're going to create that route quickly. So I think we'll create it in where we have orders. Okay. This is the post blog. So let's create it here. So it's read blog or user. So that's what I want to call it. Okay. So we're trying to read all the users that we have in the system. So we already have all users here. Then we'll have a blog. So let's assume we want to print out all the users. So quickly, we go to the route, and then what did we call that? It's going to be router.get. Router.get. So it's a get method. And in here, it takes the parameter, let's say all -users. So that's going to be the route. And the controller, this is the controller. So that will be it for now. So let's save this and go test this out using our Postman. So all users. and it's going to be a get request. So let's try to run that. So we're getting an error. So let's see why we're getting an error. It said cannot find. Okay, so let's check if we're actually using the right route. Okay, the right route here is all users. So I typed, there was a typo here, and here is all users. So let's try it now. Okay, now you can see the response. We are getting the response of all the users that has been registered. So these are all the users. So this is how you read all record from your database. How does this really work in real sense? If you're building up an application and you want to see everything that you have put into the application, then you use a GET request to get everything from your database. You want to see all the profiles. You want to see maybe you're a doctor. You want to see all your patients. You want to be able to read through your patients, and maybe you want to read through a particular patient's profile. That's what we're going to be doing now. Now that is to get a profile or a user. So let's quickly do that. Now, for this, we're going to be having a user controller. For example, we want to get a particular user. Now, it's almost the same thing we're going to be running. It's very, very similar. So we're just going to copy this. And to get a user, is almost the same operation we are carrying out. So this is not get all users. So how do we get a particular user? Now, to get a particular user, you need to have the user ID for you to be able to get a particular user. It's very important you're able to do that. And once you're able to get a particular user ID, then we can then use it to get the user. Okay, these are the little stuff we're going to just change. We might decide to change this to a user instead of, then this variable, we might just decide to change it to a user. It doesn't really matter, a user. And we're not making use of the variable for now. And that is it. Now, what are we trying to, we want a situation whereby we'll be able to get a particular user. Now, every user has its own ID. If you look from the response that we got here, you find out that each of them have their own ID. Let's assume I want to print out this ID. I want to print out the record from this ID, or maybe I want to print out the record from this ID, the second ID. So how do I go about it? So I want to get a record from this ID. It's very easy. How do I go about it? So I'm going to be creating what is called a route parameter to be able to do that. And how do I get that route parameter? So I'll be able to get this from the router. So let's quickly go in and show you how this actually works. Now let's assume I want to find. Now this time I'm going to be doing find by ID, not just find. So it's going to be find by ID. So dot find by ID. So it's a method in there to find by ID. So I'm just going to put the ID that I want to find by. So I'm just going to put this and put the ID itself. So this is the ID that I want to find. So I want to find this ID just like this. And let's assume I'm using a route called, let me save this. And this is the controller. So let me create a route parameter for it. It's called a user. So let's create a route for it. So I'll just copy this and paste this in a date. And so this is going to be called a user. And it's going to go into that controller called a user as well. And this is it. So we want to be able to print this out using the a user and see if we'll be able to print out that particular response to be able to get that particular ID. So let's do that quickly. So we'll go to our Postman. Instead of using all user, we just change this to a user. We'll change this to a user. Let's be sure that we actually did the right thing. So, it's not a user, it's a user. Let's quickly confirm that again. Yeah, that's called a user. Oh, it's breaking. Let's be sure of what the name is before we mess it up. Okay, it's called a user here. So we just want to change it to a user. So if we go to the route parameter, we have a user, and we are good to go. We are connected now. So let's quickly run that, connected to database. So let's quickly run that. So we'll run this. It will be able to print out, okay, we're getting an error. Okay, the error says 404. Maybe we have not gotten the right stuff. It's an get request. Okay, let's see that if there's any error beneath. So 404 actually means that we've not gotten to the right stuff. So I think this is a user, not a users. And that is what we did here. Okay, so quickly, fingers crossed. So let's fix that up and try to get that particular user, get a response from that particular user. As you can see, we've been able to print out that particular user. That means it's just like when you go into somebody's profile and you're able to click on the person's profile. Maybe you're able to click on what is called view profile, and you see this person's record. That's what we're actually trying to do. So we're able to see this record. You can actually tell how you want to see the record. You want to see the record without this password, you can do that. But in our next class, this is just the basic of CRUD. In the next section, we're going to be doing the advanced way in such a way that we'll be able to tell the kind of data that we actually want to fetch out from here. So as you can see, we're able to print that particular one out. So we've been able to do the readings, reading all the data from the database and reading the particular data from the database, a particular user from a database. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.